Hello there, my name is Vlad and thank you for joining the MCP Server build demo session. Here I'm going to tell you what MCP is, how to use it, and how to build your own simple MCP server in order to make your system and your communication with the LLM and communication of your system with the LLM much more efficient. So, in a few words, what hell is the Model Context Protocol? This is a standard way for the apps or system to talk with the AI models, and AI models to talk back to those systems and applications. We need MCP because it helps to track the conversation with the AI in a more efficient way, to do not lose something between and to make it more standardized. MCP works by creating the rules. So that's actually the rule set, how to send conversation history and instructions between your app and AI servers. It gives you tools to manage how much a conversation history to keep, say conversation states, and store common information to use again. So there are three main instruments MCP provides you with. Those are the tools, those are the prompts, and those are the resources. We'll be mostly focusing on the tools because I'm using Zed, and Zed IDE is supporting the tools only for now, but in future it will gonna allow you to use the prompts and the resources. The prompts from the MCP saying to you how you could use this MCP, and resources are actually providing only the reading of the information. Tools are actually something that is making actions. For example, we want to create file or remove file, or you want to build up something, or you want to do the composer install or npm install. Those are the tools responsible for that. So let's get back to our Zed IDE. And here we will be in a bit of a recursion mode. We will gonna ask AI system to build up a simple, small MCP server that allow us to do something with Git. Yeah, for example, do the Git commit. Let's do that. So what do we ask? I'm using the Cloudy from Anthropic Sonnet 4, and it's just the best tool for building up the code as for me in the current state. So please build MCP server for Git commands. It should have one tool called Git commit. Git commit tool should get two arguments. Arg1 is list of files to commit. Arg2 is commit message. Yeah, let's do 3 because we need to know which directory we want to commit to, right? And from. So arg3 is the current directory to execute those commands. Do not build readme. Oh no, actually, let it build everything. Let's see what it does. So I'll help you to build an MCP server for Git commands. Thank you very much, mate. Okay, it's creating the package JSON, and I expect to see here Model Context Protocol SDK. Yeah, that's great. So it's using the Model Context Protocol SDK. That's something that has been released by Anthropic, I believe. It provides us with the various tools that we could use in order to build up our MCP server. And it's actually building here the MCP server itself, the index.ts. So it's using the TypeScript. Okay, I would prefer to use the JavaScript vanilla, but yeah, that's good work fine as well. So let's see what it builds for the index.cs. So it's creating the new server. It's calling it MCP Git command. Great. It has a version 1.0.0. Yeah. Let it be. And we have a description of the tool. So we have a tool, git commit. Yeah, it's jumping. Sorry. It's jump. No, let's wait till it finish. Yeah, it's creating the test of git commits.js. and so on and so on. So what I actually like about Zed IDE is the fact that it has internal MCP tools that allowing Zed IDE to build up all of the files, build up all of the needed constructions, and also execute many commands in your bash. For example, I bet it will gonna execute npm install. I bet it will gonna execute the tests that it has built in order to verify does our tool, does our MCP server works fine, and if it's not, it will gonna fix it based on the test results. So you actually should just provide the proper requirements. That's called the requirement-driven development, and see the result. Of course, after it finish everything, you definitely need to go through the code that it has generated. This is not the magic wand. This is the tool that you need to understand how to use. So what it does, it's just describing right now what has it done, right? It has an install as such. Okay, that's cool. So it's a bit of an overkill, but yeah, let's see. Review changes. That's fine. So git ignore. Yeah, we'll keep it. The readme, we'll get back to it later. Test. I would rather foresee the actual code. So the package JSON. Yeah, so this is the most important part here. That's what we're going to use. So we keep that. And index.ts. So that's our server. Actually, we already started checking the needs. There is a new server. It has a tools. In tools, we have a git commit. That's the git commit tool that we need. That's great. And we have here the input schema. We have 3 parameters. The files, that's an array of a string. So the array of a path to files. Then the message, this is a string, and the directory. So the directory where to execute the git commands. That's great. And all of those 3 parameters are required. That's cool. We can work with that. So how do we handle the request? So if the name of the tool is a git commit, then we do the magic. So it's a bit of a spaghetti code here, but let it be. So the most important part is here currently. And what do we have? We are getting the files, message, directory. That's great. So we do the exact sync in a git ref path git directory. Okay, cool. And we do git add of the files. That's wonderful. And then we do execute the git commit, and we are getting the std out and std error, and we are passing the result to our LLM, to our client actually, that is afterwards passing it to LLM, and we will gonna see this error, git commit successful or not successful, and yeah, we'll see an error or whatever. Okay, so if some error appears, we see it here. That's great. And we call here the main function. That's it. That's cool. So we accept this file. We accept, we keep it. And we have git commit test. Okay, it's pretty interesting. It's just, yeah, it played around. So it's actually running the tool, I think. So what do I want to see? So send MCP request. Let's start from the top. So we are describing the test. Before each test, we are creating the temporary directory, right? We do execute those commands, and we do write some file, the test.txt file. So it's actually building up the pre-requirements for our test. That's cool. And after each, we are dumping those directory. And here is the actual test. Should successfully commit files. So server pass okay. And we're building up the request. And yeah, so we're building up the request in the way how it should be built by the client that we're using, that we're going to send the request to the MCP. Yeah, and then we're calling the standardizes to the MCP, and we are validating the response. So seems to be valid. I'm not going to play around with it. I'm not going to spend many time on that one, but yeah, let's keep that. Okay. And we have test git commit.js, another one. I have no idea why do we have 2 of them, but let it slide. So what do I want to see? I want to ask my tool to run the test. I want to ask the Zed to run the test to make sure that our server works pretty fine. Okay, yeah, so it's running the npm install. It's doing the test of getting failed, and it fixed the TypeScript error. Okay, great. Please do that. Please fix that. Okay, so we have some problem with the test actually. and it's going to recreate it right now. So the wipe coding is not always easy. Let's see what it does. If this iteration will not gonna end up with a success with the tests, because I believe the problem is actually with the tests only, we'll just keep up going with our actual tool, and we're not gonna focus on those workarounds that we have. Oh yeah, okay, so we see it's running, it got all green. That's great. So I think that's something that we can actually move on with. Great. So before we will gonna move on with the testing the tool, we need to connect this tool to our client. Our client is Zed IDE, and we need to play around with that. So you could do it in two ways. You could or go here to the settings and add here the custom server, or you could build up the pre-config that we will gonna actually use. So review changes, we are keeping them all. I fully trust the AI thing. So what we need to say to it, please build .z settings.json file in order to connect our current MCP server to Zed IDE. I already had an examples and used some of them before, so I'm just gonna pass it as an example, so it will gonna understand how to build up this settings.js. I'm gonna commit everything, and everything will be available in a GitHub. So no worries, if you don't catch something up here, you'll see it later on a GitHub. Okay. Now I'll create the setting.json. Yeah, great. It's doing too much already, I think. Anyway, we can see already the settings.json file. That's something that we need. That's the name of the server. That's the command that is getting executed. So it will gonna execute node, the path to the file, the index.js. Right? But actually, do you have index.js? We have index.ts. What the hell is it doing? Oh yeah, you need to cut it down a bit. We're gonna stop that. We keep that. We do reject that to the trash. I don't need that. I'm sorry. So using .ts. So the file is in SSC index.ts. Please fix that. Okay, that's fine. So we keep that. This thing, we do just drop it. I don't need that. That's fine. So. What do we do next? We need to verify, do we have that tool available in our Zed or not? Yeah, we do. You see git commit tool, great. We have a git commit server with the git commit tool. Awesome. Let's test it out right now. Before that, we need to, of course, initiate the git repository and see what directory are we in. And let's do the magic. So how the hell the command is called? Git commit. So we're gonna say, please do git -commit, the name of the tool. I prefer to use the exact names of the tools to avoid misinterpretations. For file, yeah, we have file git ignore. Yeah, let's do it for the file. .ignore with a message. Crazy. It is MCP built by AI. First commit. And let's see, will it gonna run the tool or not? It's running the tool, but I forgot to pass the working directory. Let's see how it will gonna handle it. So here it is executing our MCP. And it says git commit failed. And then it started using the actually Zed MCP, the internal, the built-in MCPs, which is not what we want to have. But I believe, yeah, it just committed it. But it didn't work out with the MCP. though it's tried to call it. So I think that's because we have not passed the working directory. Let's try again, right? Let's try again. And we're gonna add working directory is, here we are. And it's not a false, it's a second commit. It looks like the commit failed. Yeah, because we don't have the git ignore file anymore. That's right, so that's another mistake of mine. Let's use the install.sh file instead. Success. Okay, so currently our MCP tool is actually got executed. Let's see what are the logs here. So the files to be committed are like that. So because we have files, type array, each array element is a string. So yeah, install.sh. The message is crazy. It's MCP built by AI, second commit. Definitely. And the directory, that's our directory, also the string. So if we do run here git log, we'll see second commit. Wonderful. And if we open install.sh, that's great. So yeah, just now, it's just committed right now. So that's awesome. So we actually have used the MCP currently in order to commit something, and that's a great achievement. But you may have seen that it failed. It failed because we have not passed the work directory, and it just didn't know what went wrong because we are passing very little output information to our LLM. If we're going to pass much more information, it will going to identify what the hell is going wrong and how to fix that. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to ask to rebuild the git commit tool from our MCP server to show, is it successful or is it the error commit, or and as well add the log information, the output of the git commit command. So please change git commit tool from index.ts to return is it success or no of git commit command, and as well please show the full output of git commit command. And then we're going to execute the same text. We're going to pass the same inputs, the file name, the commit message, but we're not going to pass the work directory. And we'll see, will it going to handle it in that situation or no? I bet it will, but we'll see. It's building up very, very much of the things. Ah, it's testing it already, so it's building it. Let's see, we're going to build. Okay. It's just executed our git commit tool. Yeah, okay. It executed its own tests that we have, and 2 out of 3 failed because we changed the output, this obvious solution. So we're gonna fix the tests. Yeah, test passed, great. And saying now let's update that configuration, but should we? I don't think so. Yeah, okay. Everything is great, it's finished everything. Keep all, I fully trust in AI. So let's do the very similar thing, right? So let's create the new file, just testing the meeting 1.txt. That's great. ABC123. Yeah. Okay, enough AI for today. So what do? We need to copy the very first command we have used, right? This one. We pass it here, build AI thought, commit, and we're not gonna pass the directory, but we will gonna pass the file name testing committing 1. Okay, .txt. Yeah, let's see how it will gonna work out here. Yeah, it's running, commit successful. And why it was successful? Why? Because we have passed already the, yeah, because we've passed the working directory before, and that's why it just took it from the context. It already knows that you need to pass it. So we need to create the new child. Let's create the new child, right? So Yeah, the new chart, that's great. Create the new file, testing meeting 2.txt. ABC 456. That's fine. And we do the same. We do just put the 2, and here, there, we're saying this is there for commit. Let's see how it goes. It should fail first time, but after that, our AI tool should understand what it needs to change in order to put the right parameters inside. Okay, it looks like there is an issue with the git commit tool. Perfect, commit was successful. It just performed it manually. Again, wrong. We do the same, but we're gonna instruct it explicitly to use only the MCP server. Okay, great, and use explicitly always git command MCP to git commit. If something goes wrong, analyze an output and adjust input for git commit. It's running our tool. Great. An issue with the git, let's check the proper structure first to understand what's going wrong with, and then try to diagnose an issue. So you see it's checking, is this file exist or not, and what's going on. It's checking, do it have a git, do it have shell? Yeah, you see, so it just figured out that directory was wrong on the very first time. Yeah, you see, and it started checking everything, and it ended up with understanding that the directory is the problem. So let's see, actually, do we have this 5th commit? Yeah, that's our commit. That's our commit. Here it is. So you see, with a couple prompts and try and errors, you could actually build up a pretty smart MCP that could do many things for you and interact with the systems you want. Would it be the Git? Would it be the database? Would it be anything else? It doesn't really matter. It matters how you're going to build up those MCPs and provide the proper instructions and prompts. As I mentioned before, Zed doesn't support prompts or resources. It supports only the tools. And that's why it has troubles, like we just experienced, that where we need to put explicit instructions here. Use explicitly always git command MCP to git commit. If something goes wrong, analyze an output and adjust an input for the git commit. And if we would have created the prompt inside of our MCP server and Zed would have supported that, this thing would have been placed in this prompt. And we would need to build it up here. We would need to write that down here. But those are workarounds that you can play around with. And also there are many other clients that do support all of the spectrum of the MCP tools, and you could play around them. But my favorite is Zed because that's IDE that I'm using for white coding and the requirement-driven developments. But yeah, you could play around with any else. The last very important thing I want to mention that the MCP server plus LLM plus client is an interesting architecture, and you need to understand how it works. So user goes to client and tells to the client, do git commit. Then client passing it to LLM, and LLM is deciding should we use some MCP or not. But the client passing it to LLM with a list of the all available MCP tools. Not the tools, the servers, sorry. And LLM decides which MCP to use, pass info about MCP to be used to client. Client calls it, return, client return output to LLM. LLM decides what we do next. And this circle could be repeated. So LLM decides what we do next. If it's deciding that we need to call another MCP, then it's doing that. So it's passing information about the MCP to be used to client, and client calls this MCP, and then client returns the output and is deciding. That's what we have occurred. We have seen here. We have asked it to do the git commit, right? And client has sent this request with the list of available MCP servers to the Cloud Ethernet 4. Then LLM decided that we need to call this specific MCP, return this information to the client, and client actually made this call. This call, the client, has been made by the client. The output here, right, has been returned to the LLM back, and LLM decided that we need to do an analyzing of the various things. It started playing around with the bash commands, again, through the client. So the client is calling that, but the decision is made by the LLM. And at some point of time, it decided that we need to call another git commit message. The LLM again decided it and told to the client to make the call. Client made the call with those parameters that has been taken from the LLM, and we got another error. This error has been passed to the LLM again, and so on and so on. So we had this circle here. And that works pretty nice, but that shows us that LLM is actually the two things only in the current situation. The thing one is the proper arguments normalizer, formatter, etc. It's just figuring out which parameters should be passed to the MCP based on the input from the user. I could say a lot of blah, 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 and LLM will gonna take from this blah, 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 couple parameters like a list of files, commit message, and working directory, and pass it to the MCP, and formatize and normalize it based on the schema that MCP wants it to have, based on MCP server schema. And the second thing that is also important is a decision maker on what to do next based on MCP server output. Those are the two things. And you could utilize the MCP server, the client, and the LLM to communicate with the various systems and help yourself. But it doesn't seem that this is a magic wand. As I mentioned before, this is just a tool. So use it wisely, don't put it everywhere. But that's pretty interesting thing if you want to somewhat formalize and normalize the list of parameters that you have and pass it to the specific tools that you already possess. For now, that's it. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments or ping me in email. I would be happy to answer them and help you out with multiple things. So thank you for watching me, and let's stay in touch. Ciao.